Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Got something to show you today. First day on Periscope. Hello, Isaac. Free Rick Ross. I don't know about that. Immortality? Sure. So I'm gonna give you a little chalk talk today. Got two topics. You ready for it? I'm sure you are. Somebody on Twitter said, hold the phone further away. And I thought, that's really the best advice I've gotten. Am I going to the inauguration with James Wood? Probably not. Oh, you need a distraction? Well, I'm here. All right, I've got two topics that have nothing to do with each other. One of them is climate change. All right, I hope this looks the right direction when you're looking at it. So have you noticed that whenever somebody has a climate change argument, they start with a chart that looks like this, and they say, look, the CO2 has gone up in the same way as the temperature. So if this is temp, and this is CO2, I think that's the way they look. They say, look, it kind of matches. Oh, it's not perfect, but if you average the lines and stuff. So basically the idea is CO2 is rising, temperature's been rising, case closed. The minute you see this on Twitter, and by the way, I'm not saying that this is credible or not credible, I'm just saying that the minute you see it, it is matched with chart judo, meaning that somebody has another chart that says this. It says that temperature over time in the world has naturally fluctuated, and in a big way. And then at the moment, we're here. So if you don't know anything about climate science, and that would be me, you're just a voter and you're trying to figure out this stuff. Everything comes down to what I just wrote on the board. The entire world depends on this. Maybe, right? Let me make that case a little stronger. If climate science and the climate scientists are right collectively, and that climate change is a cataclysmic problem that we need to do everything we can to avoid. If that's true, then this, what I just drew, is the most important perceptual block to saving the world. And let me show it to you again. So I'm saying that, and I'm talking psychology, not science now. I'm talking about how you communicate your message. I'm not talking about the truth of it or anything else. I'm talking about whenever you see a climate science argument on the internet, somebody who thinks that climate science or climate change is a big problem gives you this graph or some version of it. It says, as the CO2 goes up, the temperature is going up in lockstep. We're all doomed. It's a big problem. The minute this appears, somebody matches it, or really tops it, with this chart. Now, I'm not the one who can give you any idea which one is real, right? But if it's true that the natural cycles have been up and down and we're just somewhere in the middle of it, that's a completely different argument, right? So if there's anybody out there watching who wants to save the world, and you believe that climate change is a big problem, and you think that the biggest problem to solving that is that people don't believe it, you have to solve for chart judo, all right? You've got to explain to me why this one's always right, but that one doesn't make sense, or it's the wrong data, or it's maybe just irrelevant. Maybe it's just off topic, and I can't tell because I'm not a climate scientist. So until this is solved, there's nothing else that matters. All right, that's it. That's the whole thing. You can boil down the entire argument to these two charts. One of them's right, at least, but what if both of them are right? Well, yeah, could be. All right. Now I'm going to take you to a completely different topic. Why judo? Yeah, judo is the wrong word. It's just a response, I guess. So do you remember when the government used to be this republic that the founders of the United States built, and it had a Congress and a president, and people voted, and they elected their representatives in the republic to go vote for them? Do you remember that old system that doesn't exist anymore? Oh, you think it exists? Oh, well, let me correct you. In the old days, In the old days, yeah, there was voting and there was Congress, and those are the cats that made all the decisions. Here's what we got now: whole new model, and I call this "We the People." So this little cloud up here is just all the people in the United States, the world too, but in this case, the United States. These people use their social media, and they also look at mainstream media to figure out what's important, what they care about, what matters to them most. And at the moment, they can focus their anger and energy through President-elect Trump, or they will be able to soon. In this, you see this one example that Trump put the focus of the world on, these individual companies that he wanted to negotiate with to get a better result for the people up here, right? So the people up here said, hey, we want jobs. Social media, mainstream media confirmed that. President Trump became sort of the magnifying glass that just focused their energy in the right place. He didn't do anything. He didn't make any laws. Congress wasn't involved. Nothing. There was nothing but a focus of attention. And that focus of attention is likely to create this enormous benefit. Not just these companies. I think you could make a good argument that these are trivial, compared to the whole economy. But what did it do to everybody else who saw that? Suddenly they said, hey, I better stay in America, or my stock is going to drop like a rock. Because you know what? If you don't stay in America, your stock is going to drop like a rock. You know that now, right? So you don't have to guess about it anymore. That's just true. So this is the current form of government that we just evolved to. And I would say that, and the part I'm leaving out, is that we, the people, don't really have a single mind. The people are not unified in what they believe. So it's really the majority of the cloud. And since we tend to be almost sort of split on most of the important topics, it doesn't take much to move a few people from one side to the other, right? If you move a few people, you've won the argument, because then, if you're at 50-50 and you move 5% of the public, suddenly it's 55-45, and that doesn't even look close anymore. And it's just, 5% of the people. It's actually, yeah. So in this model, the people who end up mattering are the people who can influence with money and persuasion. So I would argue that that's the government right now, right? The government is this. There are people who are good at persuading, who can influence, not everybody, because most people really never change their mind about anything, but they can influence a little bit of them, maybe just a corner. They can influence this many if they work at it a lot. If you influence this many, that's enough to move the majority from the minority to the majority on lots of topics. And that means that the persuaders, and to a lesser degree than they used to be, it used to be the money people were running everything. And now, today, I would argue that having influence is far more important than having money. Because on social media, the best idea just wins, right? So we're moving from a republic that really was sort of a fake republic, because all the decisions were made by the people with the money. They would tell the politicians what to write. They would tell the media what to report, and that would make the people get on board, and they would just do whatever the leaders told them. So that was sort of our old model. When I say the old model, I mean, last year. But here's the new model. Here's the government completely reimagined and reformed. It still has all the old, machinations of Congress and voting for laws. You still need all that stuff. But no longer are they part of the decision. Right? Congress just isn't part of the decision anymore. And they used to be. The decisions are made here by persuaders. Now, they're not all good. Like, some of them have bad intent, right? But they're still persuading. So whether they're good persuaders or bad persuaders, persuasion moves the people, not all of them, just enough to move the minority to the majority in a lot of topics. They magnify their power through social media, and then the mainstream media has to report whatever people care about, right? They can't get anybody to watch if they report on things people don't care about. So they're going to have to look at social media to figure out what people care about. So really, social media is wagging the tail now. So these guys, at the moment, can focus their energy through a President Trump who can use that focus without changing any laws, without starting a war, without physically changing anything. It's pure psychology that he uses by focusing attention where people don't want it or do want it. Now imagine this model extended, all right? You're going to take this, so this is an example where he just focused on some individual companies. But suppose he started focusing on startups. And let's say those startups were in healthcare, education, transportation, things that would make enormous benefits to people in their life. We don't want the government building apps, right? We don't want them picking winners and losers. But what if, suppose these startups pooled themselves into funds. So let's say there was a health-related fund, so it's got lots of little startups in here. The government doesn't need to say, hey, this startup is good and this one isn't. But if somebody curates this fund, they're all pretty good, they all got a good chance, and the government doesn't give them any money, doesn't need to. All it needs to do is focus the lens. So here you've got we the people saying, hey, we need to have affordable health care, but we can't tax our way there just isn't enough money. So we the people take their case to social media and mainstream media, and Trump gets the message and he says, all right, I'm going to move my lens. I'm going to move my little magnifying glass. I'm going to focus your light on the things that you say you want. Let's say healthcare, and those are startups. Suddenly, these little healthcare startups have a lot of energy. They have attention. They've got funding. They've got people leaving from other parts of industry to say, man, I want to be part of that. Everybody's looking at it. Everything's happening over there. And suddenly, these healthcare startups create all the new technology that allows us to provide healthcare at a reasonable cost for the first time. And it's not just healthcare. It could be education, right? School system is terrible. It's like a school system that was developed in the 1600s or whenever the hell school came about. And we're using that in 2017. Makes no sense. There should be some kind of a education fund of startups that are trying to improve it, especially improve it for poor people and for developing countries. All right, so look at this model of government, and I would argue that we're here. There are persuaders. I'm doing it to you right now. I'm persuading you right now. Can you feel it? All right, so there are persuaders. I'm one of them, but there are bad persuaders too. My persuasion, I do try to keep on the positive for society rail. There's sort of a Spider-Man problem that you have when you have this much influence, which is you sort of have to use it for good unless you're just a total sociopath. So I'm persuading you right now to see the government as a different model, and it's one in which you have a lot more power than you thought you had, because you're part of this mechanism. You're a persuader too. You've got social media. You can decide what TV shows to watch. You get to control collectively this bit with me. And persuaders such as myself are really just reframing. That's all we're doing. I'm not inventing anything. I'm just changing where your mind is focused. And that's what Trump does. That's what the master persuader does. The master persuader, as I call him, his biggest trick is focus. He makes you think about the things he wants you to think about. It's amazingly powerful. There's a reason that the stock market is up since he got elected. There's a reason that consumer confidence is at some kind of a high right now. It's because he changed your focus from bad news to good news. When he needed to get elected, he made you focus on how everything was falling apart, right? And so that you'd say, my God, we got to get rid of those people who are making everything fall apart. Well, the day he was elected, he started going out and doing all these optimistic things, just as you might expect he would. And he changed your focus. Suddenly you're talking about Ford and Carrier and these countries, keeping jobs in the United States. And then you're thinking, hey, those all sound like good things. So without even an argument, he doesn't have to say jobs are good or anything. He just makes you think about it. And then suddenly it's the most important thing in your world because you spend all your time thinking about it. You know, our minds decide what's important based on the energy we put in different topics, all right? So when Trump does something that looks like a mistake to you, it's provocative, it seems totally unnecessary, what he does is he absorbs your mental energy and puts it on this question. So while you're arguing, you know, should he or should he not have insulted this person or that person, what you're thinking about is the topic he wants you to think about. You know, you should think about all the things that he doesn't talk about. It's all the stuff he doesn't want you thinking about, all right? So this is your new government. This was a quick Periscope. I'm on the way to the gym. Someday I'll show you the rest of the garage, but it's not looking the way I want it to look right now. I'll show you a little bit. I'll show you a little bit of it. Here's my little seating area, a little messy right now. There's my TV, my compressor. All right. So I just want David Copperfield. I have to look into that. All right, that's all I have for now. Take care. Happy Martin Luther King Day.